What up guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here today and I'm back with another video. Now today's video we're going to be reacting to a channel called Tylearned, video called Why Garou vs Baki Isn't Close. Now this was suggested to me by Sunik Sunil for quite a while. I already seen this video on my own beforehand. I didn't know which one he wanted me to react to because there's other ones, but I'm assuming it's this one because the other one was like Garou versus Baki's universe itself. Now this whole Baki versus Garou thing, this video isn't about it isn't about like just Garou versus him, because let's be honest, Garou would dominate him because Baki doesn't really have any superpowers, whereas Garou does. This is about who's a better fighter, Baki or Garou. This has nothing to do with who's stronger, because obviously we know who's stronger. It's just martial arts fighting analysis. So you wanted me to check this out, so yeah, let's get into it.
Baki Hanma versus Garou is a matchup I've always found interesting since both are probably one of the most recognizable martial artists in manga. But this video is going to be a little different from your average versus battle. I mainly want to look at the martial arts aspect of the fight and find out who is overall the more skilled fighter. Because I think it's pretty obvious that Garou stat-wise would just stomp Baki, so it's not really fair to talk about. So for this fight we will have equal stats, no hacks being involved, and it's just purely martial arts. Now, Garou is someone I've talked about already, but I'll just give a brief summary of what his best skill feats are. He can copy anything that's before him and improve upon it. He has pressure points, he can see your weak spots, instinctive combat prowess, a perfected style that has other styles combined with it, can reflect your hits with double the force, and has insane adaptation that could prove to be even trouble for Baki. However, I will say that it really depends on the version of Garou that you're talking about when saying that he has insane adaptation, because human Garou has to get legit beat up by someone, then recover, and then he's like, okay, I've learned my lesson. Meanwhile, you could throw one punch at Cosmic Garou and he'll just analyze everything about you, copy your style, and just do better than you. And now it's time to talk about the GOAT Baki, because, like, come on. You guys already heard me talk about Garou like 15 times, bro. I like, come on now. Even as early as Grappler, it's been shown that Baki's fighting style is somewhat very unique to specifically him. Much like Garou, he has a distinct style combined with others, and Garou didn't even start to do this until late Monster Association. Meanwhile, Baki as a child was doing this. Meanwhile, instantly is able to copy the likes of his opponent's moves just by getting hit a couple times. This happens in the first arc of Baki, which is literally just a tournament, but
Baki, I love Grappler Baki. I watched the two original series and then the newest Netflix one that they've done, and I'm waiting for their Ogre special to come out. I think that's gonna be amazing. But when you're comparing these two, the thing about Garou is since he's a powerful character, usually the more powerful characters, even if they do have great fighting prowess, usually they focus so much on their insane power that their martial arts fighting is kind of put a little bit on the back burner. Whereas these characters are mainly known for their martial arts fighting, so that's gonna be more hyper focused. So I don't think it's very fair of a matchup compared to Baki, who is purely the anime is purely about martial arts, whereas the other one's about superpowers, and he himself is just a character that focuses mostly on martial arts. So it's kind of unfair. I think it would be cool to see Kengan from Kengan Asura and Omega versus Baki, because those two series are very similar. They're both about martial arts, both about fighting styles, both have insane feats. But let's be honest, I think in that one Baki would win. Baki's universe, the characters are way more ridiculously powerful than in Kengan Omega and Asura, but that universe is still far more comparable to this, not only power-wise, but also skill-wise. If you want to go based off skill, I still think Baki would win, but I think that would be a better matchup than Garou. I never thought of, hey, Garou and Baki, let's see who's a better fighter. I was like, when I saw this video, I was like, obviously Baki was going to be the better fighter. Where the hell would Garou be, better at fighting than him?
Then we even see it later on where he instantly copies the likes of Retsu's 4,000-year-old history of martial arts, which in its own right is said to be a style that's been perfected. Retsu by this point should massively upscale from the likes of Motobe, who literally has learned every single style on the planet, combined it, and even added the knowledge of Yujiro style, whose fighting style alone is something completely out of everyone's league. Baki is not only able to anticipate opponents' moves, but literally have his equivalent to Ultra Instinct. And he also has a technique where no matter how hard he gets hit, no matter how many times he's just comboed, he can negate that pain. Just by imagining it, bro. Baki also, mid-battle, legit has a simulation of an opponent and basically just counters everything that they throw. And even the likes of Yujiro and Grappler, who would be the most skilled person hands down by this point, would get humiliated by characters in New Grappler. Like, that's just really how the Baki scaling goes. We see in Season 2 that Yujiro and Oliva are implied to be like, if they were to fight each other, it'd be a crazy fight, but then we see later on, after the whole pickle fight, Yujiro legit crumples this man like an omelet. And there is an actual explanation for this, that being that Yujiro legit improves every single day. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but even the likes of Doppo, when he fought Yujiro, he would definitely give Garou a hard time, and I wouldn't even say that he could full-on defeat him unless it was like late Monster Association or even Cosmic. And it's funny how most of the stuff that I'm talking about is from the first series of Baki. We're not even talking about where later on he can legit reality warp with skill, and then we can also see him legit put.
Yeah, the Baki series gets really ridiculous. People always talk about, oh, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is weird. No, this shit is weird. Like, this guy goes from, like, you know, martial arts, maybe a little bit more, you know, anime-esque, where it's ridiculous, like, them getting their eye jabbed out and them still fighting and stuff like that. But then this guy started imagining shit and started really fighting them. He fought Mike Tyson. He envisioned Mike Tyson and fought the man. He fought a human-sized goddamn praying mantis. He was fucking creating dinosaurs out of his imagination, and it wasn't just, oh, him imagining his head. It was literally fucking affecting the world. They were destroying buildings. He was getting smashed into a building by his own imagination. So it's like, the fuck is this? Like, yes, it makes no sense that he would have some form like magic or like, you know, reality warping imagination abilities, but it's what it was showing, so that's what it is. But yeah, they're ridiculous. They took the concept of shadow boxing, which is basically what usually boxers do, and it's basically just envisioning opponent, throwing punches, you know, doing counterattacks, just envisioning your opponent or somebody you're supposed to fight, and thinking about what they can do and what skills they do, and like just creating counters to it, like, you know, dodging and punches and stuff and how to move around. But they took that to the extreme and said you can just imagine whatever the hell you want, and it can somewhat come into reality, and you can fight it. And he's done that, and he surpassed Mike Tyson, and he surpassed human-sized praying mantis and dinosaurs, just showcasing his craziness.
People under hypnosis. And not to mention the adaptation that I was discussing about with younger Baki, which would definitely be a struggle for Garou to handle, just increases so much more as the series progresses. And you guys are probably just like, bro, what are you talking about? But you have to understand, this is talking about the martial art aspect of things. I'm not talking about pure power or whatever. Like, I know I'm gonna hear people being like, oh my god, Garou could come back from death, he could throw nuclear bombs, he could throw black holes, but that's all legit hacks. And if you want to rat and say that he just does this through skill, then, you know, do you, I guess. But Garou's adaptation is something that legit Baki can replicate or just show relativity to. We also see him being able to fight like a wild animal, can use his instincts like Garou, and legit has his own fighting spirit through his passion of fighting and determination. So if you guys were to say that fighting spirit is technically a skill, which I don't know how you can argue that, and he comes back from death, Baki has done this legit as a child. We've seen Baki use whatever his opponents throw at him against them and use his own style to add a unique twist. He does this as a child, bro. He can imitate wild animals' movements, adapts from other fighters' pre-Yujiro fight and post-tournament fight, adapts Retu's Chinese karate, which is basically the master's master of fighting, which unironically would give Garou's god-slaying Calamity Fist the works. Even just looking at Baki versus Garou in terms of pure hands, Baki just has way more going for him, unless you want to say Cosmic Garou just copies faster than Baki, but I don't even think that's all that reliable, since these two would be adapting off each other's skill and trying to best one another. Also, Baki's adaptation allowed him to survive an encounter with Yujiro, who literally just by looking at you can know everything about you. And yes, Yujiro is above Baki, but Baki could definitely hang in there at least a little bit. And Yujiro always is constantly impressed with this kid. If Garou were to use the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist onto Baki and land a few combos, Baki would already accumulate that style into his own. And at this point for Baki and Yujiro, even if the opponent is relative to them in speed, by their standard, it's slow to them due to their skill gap. So you can't even argue that Garou can unironically fucking hit Baki in equal stats. Like, bro, Baki is a verse where you can legit reality warp things coming to life with skill. I don't even see how this man Garou even compares to them.
Yeah, and like he said with the whole, adapting to abilities, that is one thing I really love about Baki, Grappler Baki, the series. Because when you see the series Baki, every time he's in a fight, especially against new opponents that have crazy abilities, adds it to his repertoire. His dad does that to Yujiro, but he does it to a far more extent. Because Yujiro usually uses his own power and his own techniques, whereas him, to get stronger, he isn't as strong as his dad, so to match up with his dad, he usually takes into account every fighting style, every martial art that he can see, everything he sees and he fights. So anytime he fights an opponent, he's able to adapt to their ability, to their like fighting style, and uses it. He doesn't just beat them with his own style. He has his own style, but he also gathers other people's styles and amalgamates it into one like major fighting thing. Kind of like a UFC fighter who has like multiple different fighting styles. He does it with every other fighting style and technique he learns. So he's a very very well adaptable and a well-rounded fighter. He takes all these other techniques. So if he did have some technique that he didn't know, it would just take him a bit in the fight to be able to adapt that to his own. Also, he has countless techniques and fighting styles in his arsenal. So if he's against Garou, and even if he does have some fighting styles that he does know, he'll probably have even more and even better ones. So he would just have to use those, and he can learn and add up to that. And then the whole imagining things into existence just by his fighting skill, even more nonsensical. But hey, that's anime for you. It's not always meant to be realistic or make sense.
In terms of martial arts. The best thing going for him is his copying, which Baki could just deal with pretty easily. And he has way better adaptation, and he has so many other techniques that could just neg him. Like, bro, even weaker characters like Doppo, Shibukawa, Retsu, they would straight up beat the shit out of Garou in terms of hands. And I hope this video made you guys...
So that was a great video by Tylearned, why Garou versus Baki isn't close. I 100% agree with him. On fighting skill level, he is not on his level. He's just well above him. He's just really great at adapting, has so many fighting styles. Because like I said, it's kind of unfair because he comes from One Punch Man, where one, he's not the main character, so he's not going to have as much screen time or as much as development. Two, he's in a universe where it's mostly about superpowers and not martial arts, so that's also a hindrance. And three, he doesn't showcase too many guys that he fights with high level skill. Whereas Baki is one, he's the main character. Two, he's against every character in the universe he fights or highly trained and skilled martial artists, and it isn't about power, so it's mainly focusing about fighting and techniques, whereas Garou's stuff is more about power and technique is a little bit in it. So you have martial arts and superpowers in it, but superpowers is the main focal point. His martial arts has some credibility in there, whereas Baki is purely just martial arts, and everybody there is martial artist. And if he's a martial artist that learns from other fighting styles, and everybody he's fighting has different martial arts fighting styles, then he's gonna have more to his arsenal when it comes to martial arts. So it's not fair. I think it would have been better from like Kengan, Omega, Asura, and Omega versus Baki from Baki, the Grappler, and just his Baki series. I think that would have been far more fair than this. But still, a really great video. I hope you enjoyed Sunic Sinnoh. I know you've mentioned it multiple times. Here's your video. I want to know what other videos you guys want me to react to, or even not just videos. Don't just give me suggestions for videos, because I don't mind reacting to other people's videos, but I want to make my own content. So if you guys have any suggestions for any ideas you want, or any topics you have, like possibly like some questions about, like, hey, what do you think about this? I could possibly make a video about that in the future. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.